Hello, and welcome to the video version of the Left of Greg podcast. I'm Brian Marin, the host and creator of the show. As always, I will be joined by human behavior expert Mr. Greg Williams, who the show is affectionately named after. On the show, we discuss different topics through the lenses of what we call human behavior pattern recognition and analysis. If you'd like to find out more about what that is, please check the links in the episode details and go to our website to learn more. Please don't forget to follow us on social media. The links are also in the episode details, and hit the like and subscribe button to help support our work. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy the show. All right, Greg. Well, good morning. Let's go ahead and get started here on today's episode. I guess the title of it, or the overarching theme, would be "You Never Know." And just to jump right into this, Greg, I always this is my general concept of dealing with humans or observing human behavior or interacting with others. I always try to have the idea in my head is you never know. And I use that in a number of ways, right? So meaning like you never know what this person is going to do. You never know what this person it has going on in their life, right? So there's ways to look at it. So it's a way I use so I don't jump to a conclusion that even though maybe logical, I might miss something, right? So you don't know who you're bumping into in the street. You bump into a guy coming out of a gas station. That might be the straw that broke the camel's back for him. He's got 9 million other things going on in his life, and he goes, you know what, that's enough, because he spilled the coffee on him and now he shoots the place up, right? Now those are rare. Those are rare, but when we say that person, their cup is full, and when they act out, it's going to spill on whatever is around them, right? So they're full of rage or anger or whatever it is. And I also use that as the other side of the coin is, you don't know. You hold the door open for someone and say, hey, good morning or whatever. That might be the nicest thing that person's heard all week, and they were thinking about killing themselves that day. And because you were nice to them, they chose a different path. So it's not just about what I'm to protect myself. It's actually kind of just being a good human being. I like doing it that way. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, exactly. This is one of my favorite topics, Brian, and the reason is that there's so much science and so much evidence that behind it. So,
right.
Generally, the folks that tune in might want to listen to a humorous anecdote or us, tell about a story that we read. I actually like deep dive a little bit into it, so people understand the differences and why we respond in those ways. When that person comes into you and you bump into that person, you never know where they are on the spectrum, Brian.
Yep.
And so understanding a little bit of why there's a spectrum, right?
Yeah.
And where a person might be, that it's like Ray G. Biv. It's like the visible spectrum. And what do we have? We have ultraviolet and infrared. Those we can't see visually, but they're there.
But they're there,
and so
yes.
once we understand that and how to look for them, maybe we can prevent a horrific.
No, and that's a great analogy too, because like you said, like infrared, you can't see that with your naked eye, but you can with an optic, right? There are optics. Same thing with UV light. Like I can't see that with my naked eye, but I can see that with the right machine. I can see what that looks like. So,
scientifically, physiologically, gosh darn it. Sorry about that. Almost dropped the F-bomb there. When we talk about physics, the property of physics, Brian, anything that moves generates energy. And anything that generates energy has the function of being able to move.
Right.
So when we talk about people scintillating and bubbling and percolating and moving around in their environment and giving off these signals, they're all there around us. It's just we have to tune in to that frequency, or we're going to miss those distant early warning signals.
No, and there's a few examples of that I want to jump into, and I always start too with my favorite one, actually from the movie Billy Madison. I don't know if you remember that, but when Adam Sandler calls up Steve Buscemi, right? And he's like, hey man, I just want to let you know, I was like, I was kind of a bad person to you a long time ago, and I didn't mean anything by it. I was just a young, he apologizes, and Steve Buscemi goes, oh, okay. Yeah, thanks. Like acts like it's nothing, hangs up the phone, and then goes over to on his wall, he has his people to kill list. and he crosses off Billy Madison's name. And that's
so true.
I use that at a basic level, right? I go, all right, look, this is about self-preservation. You don't know what that person's going on. So you being kind to that individual who's going in to shoot the place up, when he starts, he may look at you and go, you know what, that guy bought me a coffee the other day. Not today, and continue on with their life. And
that's a skewed, that's a bizarre way of looking at things.
I've been told that before about my observations.
But I want you to think of this for a minute. Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer.
Yeah.
Bianchi and Bono,
Hillside Stranglers. Yeah.
If you take a look, there was a time where they both said, hey, what about her? And did the flip and pulled up in the rain and said, okay, hitchhiker, I'm going to have her head on a pike in an hour. And folks, I don't mean to be talking cold like that. That's how they processed.
That's how they thought, yeah.
And for whatever reason, there was something right at that moment of connection, at the eye contact, or a smell, or a sound, or a sight, or the way the person, moved their hair, that it distracted the other person, and that external stimuli wasn't there anymore. And so they said, no, I'm not going to kill you today. And they drove on. So it could have been something you said. It could have been something you did.
It could have been something in the environment. It could have been a car that happened to pull by that looked close enough to a police vehicle where they said, you know what, no thanks. I mean, there's a million, there's randomness, right? So there's a million things that it could have been, right? No, that's a great point. But you have
to understand that it's all in motion all the time.
Yes.
If you understand that, then you'll understand that you're such a small element to this swirling potential. You know what I'm saying? I had a swim coach back in the day that said the word that he hated more about anything else is potential. And then if you go into science and you look at potential energy, it's the same way, because it's such a free radical. It's such a thing that you can't, and that's what this show's about. This show's literally about going out to tell your neighbor to keep it down and never coming back home again.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Knocking on the wall because the domestic next door is going to spill over into your apartment, and that results in rage or a homicide or what. We don't know what those triggers are going to be. We know what the triggers look like, Brian. That's the key. We know what they feel like, but we don't know unless we're looking for them in different environments.
Right. And you're talking about different triggers, right? You don't know what someone else's trigger is going to be. You don't know what that is, what could be a completely innocuous statement from you, what you're thinking of something very simple. This isn't a big deal, but I got to go say something to the neighbor. Well, to them, that's it. They're already finger on the trigger. You just push them over that ledge unwittingly, without knowing you were going to do that. That was clearly not your intent.
And Canada, Brian, the killer in Canada, he and his girlfriend are going to a New Year's party or a Christmas party or whatever it was. And something happened at that party. Somebody made a smart aleck remark or something, and that put in a chain of events that nobody could stop. 2.5 days of killing. You get what I'm trying to say? Over somebody's snide remark, something somebody said.
And that remark becomes the proximate cause, but it was not what was really responsible. It was not. Exactly. I mean, there's
years of trouble.
Yes, exactly. Built up to that. And there's was a great example over this past winter. What was it? I think in Philadelphia or somewhere on the East Coast. I can't remember, where the couple's out shoveling snow and they got in that argument with their neighbor, and it's all caught on camera, and it's brutal. And the neighbor's pissed and he's yelling and he's coming over with a gun. But even at that point, when he's coming out with a gun, the two people never saw it as this guy's going to do anything or he's going to shoot. They ended up executing him right there in the street. And that's the idea, is they're arguing about, snow shoveling and neighborly disputes, whatever it is. And
on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
At breakfast time.
And it leads to them getting killed. And that's terrifying, but it doesn't have to be terrifying, right? Meaning that whole situation could have been completely avoided, right? And we always say this is what we mean when we say de-escalation, right? Yes. I got to de-escalate me in order to de-escalate you, for one. But I think that's
brilliant, by the way. Write that down, folks. What Brian just said is brilliant. I'm telling you, but that's so true.
But the idea is that whole situation was avoided. They didn't know. They had no idea in their head. They knew they were there. They knew,
but it was so far from what they expected. Their expectation.
I think the reaction was, meaning in that case, they were angry and pissed off at him and wanted to get him all pissed off and say all that stuff. But I don't think they never expected it to get to the point where it was going to be a potential homicide.
A homicide. Never in a million years. And that guy, for weeks was saying, I swear to God, one more time,
One more
and I'm going to
time.
kill both of them. So that's a great place to start from. And let's talk about some of those spirals for a minute. So here's the one thing, folks, unless you're driving, grab your yellow pad and set it longitudinally and make a line down the center from the top to the bottom. And on the left, put anger, and on the right, put rage. And I'm going to street this up for you. And that's what I love to do, because science doesn't have to be scary. Anger is a natural emotional response to external stimuli. So my favorite show is canceled tonight, and I have to watch reruns of Andy Griffith. I'm angry. They've run out of the baked apple pie, and Diabito can't get his fix at the restaurant. I'm angry.
Yeah.
I come out and some jerk off rammed their shopping cart into my car and scratched my paint. I'm angry. Now let's go off to rage. Rage is a defense mechanism, and we have a rage center in our brain that's always poised like a mousetrap for any potential environment that stimulates us that, oh, somebody's going to attack me. Oh, they're attacking my masculinity. Oh, they're challenging me in front of my family. Do you get what I'm trying to say? The difference there is, Brian? So that rage circuitry, once it's turned on, it's a defense mechanism, and it'll run till the threat is gone. And so now that's, you see the guy bump into the cart in the parking lot, they're bumping into your car. And you walk up and you go, hey, smooth move, X-Lax, or whatever smart remark, your brain is ready to go. And the guy turns around and says, fuck you, old man, step off or I'll knock you out. Okay. And all of a sudden, now we're going from one side of the page to the other.
Yep.
The anger, okay, has now turned into rage, the defense mechanism, because you think you're being challenged. And you don't think that this is a 27-year-old kid and you're 60. You think that's my possession. I'm defending my possession. I have pride. I'm defending my pride. You see how that builds? Yep. And it builds electrochemically so fast that we can't look. Anger, you can count to 10.
You can breathe. Rage, you can do breathing exercises. You can calm down. So, right? You can bring your blood pressure down. You can bring your heart rate down. With rage, though.
With rage, not so much. So what you have to do is you have to understand rage by what types of situation could trigger rage. Now, if you do that, then it's much the same as anger. So you're talking about anger and you go, I'm getting really pissed at this person. I'm going to say something because they cut in line at the Piggly Wiggly or something, right? Then you can say to yourself, look, it's not worth it. I'm almost home. Fuck this person. No offense, but that's the kind of thing. Yeah. And you can calm yourself back down. With rage, you're in the moment. And you have to understand that if you don't de-escalate, remember we were talking to a very scientific person and we love him, and we were streeting up de-escalation, and we said, always be considering de-escalation. Reason is that's catchy, and ABCs are how we do first aid, right? Mm-hmm. And that person said, well, on this psychological level, and they said, like, don't blind me with the science. Simple thing is that if you trip over the rage circuitry, you're going to have hell to pay. You're going to go out of that house. Those folks, look, think of this situation, Brian. So the video, the context of the video, two people are shoveling snow and they're heckling the neighbor. And the neighbor is going like, leave me alone, go back in, you know, and the guy's saying, hey, you're a queer. And he's going, no, you're a queer. It's like third grade.
It's like children. That's what it
exactly.
Was.
But they're getting worse and more meat mouth, and the woman and the man are meat mouth. Nobody deserves to die over this, folks. Nobody. Right. But the guy said, okay, that's it. Went in and got his pistol. And when he came out with the pistol, he fired a number of times. And still at that point, the people didn't know he was trying to kill them until the man is hit a number of times. And now the woman doesn't render first aid. She's yelling even more. I can't believe you got a gun. The guy goes in and gets a bigger gun, Brian. Yep. Now he comes out with a rifle and starts shooting. So here's what I want you to think. If you folks are following at home, I want you to think now you hear Sunday morning yelling, screaming, you hear gunshots. Now you think there's an armed home invasion and you have to defend your neighbor. So you grab your own gun, Brian. You step out into the street, and now you see that guy coming out of the house with his gun, and you imagine, oh, it's my neighbor doing the same thing that I am. He's merely defending the neighborhood. Brian, he's the murder suspect.
Yeah.
We don't know that. We can't see that. And doesn't that happen all the time? And we warn people about that.
Well, that before you go into that, I think the idea is that you brought up a great example of the difference between anger and rage, right there. So the one neighbors, the ones who got killed, they were angry, right? Yep. And then this guy went into that rage, and a good explanation of that, of how it runs its course. He came out shooting with a pistol, and that wasn't enough. I mean, he
Exactly.
literally he had to go back and get a different weapon system, come back out
Because he
with that.
wasn't done.
He wasn't
He
done.
was
Well,
not done. Yeah.
that's what I mean is like that's a great example of that has to run its course.
Yes.
When they're in that moment, like you said, that rage in the moment, there's no coming out of that until it runs its course, right?
The electrochemical circuits, then the electric
Which
and the mental chemistry has to calm down.
well, yeah, and usually because your brain can't produce, those catecholamines anymore. Really, it's just
Yep.
it's run out of its supply of adrenaline, epinephrine, all that stuff. So
Yep.
now it's on empty, and it goes, dude, we got to rest so I can restore,
Crash.
and then you crash. But
Yep.
that's the idea. Is that I think that's a great example.
And add these to that too, Brian, because I want to make sure that we're broad enough a spectrum that no pun intended with Roy G. Biv, but we're broad enough a spectrum that everybody can see it in themselves. So, for example, jealousy. I've been jealous of people. I'm jealous of Land, the neighbor down the road, right? But I don't grab a claw hammer and go and kill him because of my jealousy. But that does happen.
Yeah,
The mom that kills the rival cheerleader so her daughter can be head cheerleader.
yeah,
That's born of jealousy, frustration. I'm frustrated at work because I didn't get the promotion. Some people quit. Some people stay. Rarely does somebody come back and shoot up the place. Why? Because anger has many manifestations,
mm-hmm.
but your defense circuitry, you get what I'm trying to say? Your danger warning Will Robinson has one. I need to defend myself, my honor, my house, my possessions in this incident, and I have to do it now. I have to do it right now at this place. And sometimes it's a lippy kid. Sometimes it's the person that cuts in line. Sometimes it's somebody behind you that honks and you get out of your car without even putting it in park, Brian, and you're
Right.
ready to yank them through the vent window. So if you understand anger and rage, you understand how they manifest. It's like weather prediction. You can look and go, the situation's right for rage, and you can back off before you go down that rabbit hole.
No, and that's why I approach it with the you never know, because if
Exactly.
I'm that neighbor, I hear that commotion outside, right, and I live on that street where that shooting happened, where they're
Yep.
shoveling snow, and I look out that when I pull my curtain to the side and I look out and I see that, even before there's a gun involved, even before anything, what do we typically do? They're at it again. The Jets, the
Yep.
Joneses, whatever. Like we don't ever think a lot. Most people don't ever go, well, this could escalate to homicide pretty quickly. I mean, and
Exactly.
we don't do that at that point because a lot, we just don't have the file folders for it. We don't see it. And even though we see it or see stuff like that in the news, since most people haven't experienced something like that or seen it in person.
They haven't been there, right?
So they don't know what that smells like and looks like and sounds like. Someone screaming for their life. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
they don't
Begging,
realize
literally begging,
yeah.
please don't kill me. And Brian, think of that situation too. So you've got the storm. You can see the haboob coming on the horizon, right? That storm moving in. Two people out there just trying to pull their vehicle out. They just want to shovel their driveway, meet mouth in the neighbor across the street. Unknown what happened. Read up on it. I really don't care. Okay. But
Yeah,
for
they're all the
whatever
same.
reason, it's a
But yeah,
long-standing
yeah.
dispute. It's Sunday morning. Probably not going to work. Okay. I'm probably going to breakfast with my family. It's snowing. It's going to be a great day. It's around the holiday. All of these potentials. And you know what? You just screwed it up by just being there. And now that look on your face, that smirk on your face, and you're going to stand there when you can feel it growing. Why? Because if it was Wednesday after work and you're bringing in your garbage and your neighbor says something sly, maybe it's not going to bother you. But a Sunday morning, I got to go to work tomorrow. I protect my weekend. Do you see how to certain people, certain things will become the catalyst? Something's more important to me. I want to go fishing Tuesday, but you know what? It's raining Tuesday. The fish don't know it's raining, but I do, right? And so that's not going to turn me catatonic and rage filled. But on the way home, right, the worm spilled over in my front seat. The heater was on. That smell. I pull over and somebody beeps when they go by me in the rain. Now I'm there, Brian.
No, and that can come up in a number of ways because I've experienced that just in myself too, just getting angry over stuff that I shouldn't because
Right.
it's like, hey, we're busy, we're traveling all the time. I'm finally got this night out with my wife, and she's been, this is something she deserves, and I want to take her out and show her good time. And then something goes wrong at the restaurant or this or that, and like this is the one night I had, and now I got to deal with this, and you're immediately just at that next level because you because of all those external stressors, right? And
Yep.
now you're getting angry over something that shouldn't really bother you. So it's
Yep.
easy to flip that switch over to rage and take that out for some people. You know what I'm saying? It
Yep.
gets to that point, and recognizing that. And in on the sort of the almost the flip side of that, and I forget where it was and I forget the name, so I apologize, but it was in the South. It was at a high school where a kid came in with a shotgun,
Yeah.
and the first person to
Yep.
see him was like one of the coaches. He was a teacher and a
Yep.
coach there, and he
In
took
the
one
hallway.
look at the kid and he walked up, and he didn't, he just didn't start doing some, jujitsu on the dude or pull out his concealed pistol or anything. He walked up and it gave the kid a hug and was like, "You don't want to do this," and it was like, holy shit, excuse me,
Yep.
but he went from seeing that as almost the you never know, like it didn't fit. It wasn't the rage, it wasn't the anger he saw, it wasn't any of that. And I'm going off of purely what I saw in the video and read an
Yep.
article, right? So I'm inferring some of this, but what I didn't get to talk to the guy, meaning I didn't interview him or something. He saw something there that went, I'm going to have this reaction versus I'm going to have that reaction.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so I just thought that was interesting because you,
Because
yeah,
his survival instincts were percolating, but they weren't the survival emotional response that comes with detecting danger to the level that rage goes. So I'll give you an example.
yeah,
Rarely does somebody come in shooting up a school and we go, ah, let's go get that guy. Usually it's, oh my God, flee, hide.
yeah.
Okay. So there's rage circuitry that goes the opposite direction where now all of a sudden somebody spills the coffee on me and then the room starts clapping and laughing. Now I'm embarrassed. You get what I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to say? And I tell the guy, hey, nice move. And he goes, hey, step off before I smack you down or whatever. So it's a completely different, when it builds to the one on the right, it triggers that self-defense mechanism where I'm going to show you. You've got what that guy in the hallway was feeling is, oh my God, self-preservation. I bet his legs felt like lead. I bet he was shaking inside. I bet his voice was quivering, but I bet he said, I can do this. And time slowed down. He had the gift of time and distance, and he, said emotional words to the kid. Hey,
Yeah.
hold on, Tom. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? And he was able to de-escalate it. So where you are in that spectrum, that rainbow, let's say, from left to right, is going to matter a ton. I'll give you a trigger that happens all the time, and I live in the smallest town in the world. There's a chucklehead in town, and you shouldn't call him a chucklehead because now I'll probably have to kill him. But there's a chucklehead in town that has a motorcycle, and he drives around very aggressively with his motorcycle. Okay, he's got open pipes,
Yeah.
stack pipes, and so it's and we're in Gunnison. We don't do that. This is the land of the free, home of the brave. He also has tats everywhere, but they're aggressive tats. They aren't happy, fun, hey, send a message tats. And folks, if you know what I'm talking about with aggressive tats, if not, we did a webinar on them. Combat boots, shorts, okay, open shirt, showing his pipes, right? And on his belt, every single time I've seen him in town, he has about a 6 or an 8-inch long hunting knife that's
Yeah.
fashioned like a dagger. You get what
Yeah.
I'm trying to say? Now, for whatever reason, in Colorado, anything goes. And so I'm at City Market doing the self checkout, and the guy's at the next self checkout. So all of a sudden, my brain starts doing the bongo drums, and I hear, should I stay or should I go? That person, because for 38 years, 35 years, I've seen that person and had to shoot them or
Mm-hmm.
fight with them or
Yeah. Or
tell
there's
them
always a
be
problem. Yeah.
prone or whatever. Now, it's not this guy's fault. It's just that he keeps hitting on all those triggers, and my brain has been hyper vigilant in certain situations where those triggers meant immediate death, right?
Right.
So I always I tell Shelly about a dozen times. I want to go up and I want to tell that guy, hey, you might not know this, but you're giving off the signal. But that's the time that he's going to want to fight. You get what I'm trying to say? Because nobody wears all those signals to the public without wanting to have that chip on the shoulder and say something. And if you're that person and you don't know that's the message you're sending at home right now, take a
Right.
break, because it is, So,
Yeah. No, it's everyone, we're all sending a message. We teach people how we want to
yep,
be treated. Right.
yep.
And then that's the guy that complains about people are treating me unfairly. It's like, dude, what are you sending out to the world?
I trying to say hello to you in Gunnison, Colorado, a town of 6,000 people, and you've got a K-bar fighting knife hanging open on your belt. That sends a message, Brian. I mean, if we're in what is that place, Barrow, Alaska or something, where people still, like they're shopping in City Market and a polar bear will jump out of the freezer and grab them. I could see doing something like that. But that speaks directly again to carrying a weapon is one of those things that might heighten that trigger moment. Mentioning a weapon, reaching for a weapon.
It immediately that's a great point right there, because now, it's like if you have a gun on you and you're in a fist fight, you're in a gunfight because you brought a gun.
You are.
That's the way you have to look at it, because if there's one present, that you automatically raise the level of where this could possibly lead to. You just do it's a factual statement. Like there's no, it's nothing pro or anti-gun. It's just saying if it's present, you've now escalated. The situation can now go to the level of homicide faster than if it was just two people fist fighting in the street, right? That's a good point.
So let's do that. Let's do that real quickly with the thing I gave. So two completely different people, but big old guy in the store and knife guy with the tats. They run into the carts, and the old guy says, "Hey, why don't you watch where you're going there, Tats?" And Tats says, "Hey, kiss my ass." And so old man knocks him down, okay? And he's a concealed weapons carry, so he's got his gun on him. But he knocks the tattooed guy down, grabs the knife, and walks off and goes, "Hey, you should think about who you're messing with." Well, now we have felonious assault, because even though I didn't use the gun, I was armed with the gun, and armed robbery, because I took your knife from you. But listen, when you say you never know, do you think that person thinking about that in the moment? They're thinking about, hey, I'm just going to I'll show you. And the next thing
that's a good point. Since we're on it about, you're talking about, with a gun or having a concealed carry and stuff like that. I know there was a recent case of that as well, where, a supposed Good Samaritan tried to jump in when there was a shooting going on. And then the police showed up and killed him. And you did. So this goes in. It's another example of you never know.
You never know.
You don't know where this situation escalate to, right? Because you look at those police officers showing up. They get a call that there's a shooting happening, and they pull up, and there's a guy with a gun. Well, I don't need much more than that to go. Here's what's going on. Here's the guy shooting. And I think that's a great point, because I do know a lot of people who. We both know a lot of people who carry concealed, and I'm not for or against it. I just think people need to realize what you're doing. If you're going to carry the responsibility that comes along with it, I think is important, and using it accordingly, because you may get yourself into some very serious trouble. Because I see stuff like that all the time, where people post stuff on social media of a video of, like, it happens all the time when someone's filling up with gas and then someone steals their car, you know what I mean? Or steals something in there. And it's like, someone's like, "Oh yeah, well, if that happened by me, I would just pull out my gun and start shooting." It's like, okay.
There you go.
And then you shoot that person, and then they crash into the car next to them that kills the little kid. You know what I mean? You understand you're a contributing factor in that situation. Once you get involved, you get involved in a situation, right, you now become partly responsible for what happens after you start your involvement. Is that a good way to look at it? At least
that is.
I don't care what the laws are legally,
again,
morally,
being the proximate
ethically.
cause, Brian, you just said it. You are the catalyst for something that goes out into a spiral. Look, 25, 35 years ago, as a copper on the street, we would get a call, and it's usually about Sterling Heights coppers. Somebody would say, "Hey, there's a man with a gun in Walmart," or whatever. And you'd have to go. You know what I'm saying? You're a cop. You go. And you'd see the person walking down the aisle. And so what I'd always do is I would always say from a great distance, "Hey, officer." And if the guy looked up and turned, I would say, "Somebody called about your gun. Come over here. Let's talk." Now, if I said, "Hey, officer," and nobody looked, I go, "We're in a shit, send somebody else." You get what I'm trying to say. So I'm not going to tell you exactly what I did, but I try to fight it psychologically. Well, what happens is now anybody can carry anywhere they want all the time. People, I'm not telling you to do that. I'm saying that laws are different now. And in Arvada, Officer Gordon gets set up for an ambush. So Gordon goes and is gunned down by the ambusher. Okay. A Good Samaritan says, "Holy shit, that's not right." Defends Officer Gordon by shooting the suspect a number of times. Like you said, the responding coppers see a man with a gun. The last thing on their mind is, this is a Good Samaritan. Brian, I will tell you that in the early 80s, I was given classes at the Macomb Police Academy on showing undercovers how to make sure that they had their badge where their holster was when they side carried. Because if you accidentally moved your shirt and somebody saw the gun, what are they going to see? Well, they're going to see the badge and they're going to put two and two together and go, hey, I'll mind my P's and Q's. It's likely a cop. This guy didn't do any of that. There's no such standard now to do something like that. And he's walking out. We know we have an officer down. What do you think officer down
Oh
does to the
yeah.
other
Oh
coppers?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
so think of it
That's
as a revolver. If anybody's ever opened the cylinder on a revolver, you have 6 spots generally wherein to put a bullet. So
mhm.
what Brian just said, and I want you to make sure that you understand this. Brian said that what happened is when the person said, we have a man with a gun, one of those spots, you only have 5. Then the guy's still showing up and we got shots fired. Now 2 of those cylinders are blocked in your brain.
No. Hey, we got an
We get
officer
out,
down.
we got
Yeah.
an officer down. Now 3. So Brian, the available cylinders left. Holy shit, there's another guy on the ground and I got somebody shooting. Now it's down to, that's why I came up with, should I stay or should I go? It's absolutely perfect. What happens is all of a sudden my brain starts going boom, 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 and bracketing down to a logical choice. And it all started with a simple thing that now has spun so out of control that people are saying, oh, well, the Good Samaritan and those damn cops again. Hey, put yourself in the shoes of a cop or a soldier. Do you get what I'm saying? Or a guy that works at 7-Eleven or a gas station before you want to scream about these things. You just don't understand unless you look at it scientifically.
No, and that's that. And again, it falls under the you never know, right? How am I
Yep.
supposed to approach this problem? We always jump to something that's that makes sense, is easy. Oh, this must be the problem, or this must be the issue, or this must be the threat, and it's often logical too. It's not, it's like the whole I always go back to Dr. Nesbitt because the guy's brilliant about this stuff. But it's logical to say, oh, that person was nice to me, they're a nice person. That person was mean to me, they're a mean person. Well, no, you never know, and that goes into, especially when you're talking about the workplace stuff too. I mean, how many times has someone been killed because they're getting their nails done?
Oh yeah.
And the husband or ex-husband of the owner comes in and it's a domestic violence situation and they shoot the place up.
Yep.
And that happens so often that the leading cause of workplace death for women is homicide, which is completely insane.
Ridiculous.
It's homicide. That's the leading cause of death for women in the workplace. Not injury, not falling down and getting hurt, not getting killed because of some accident in a factory where their leg got caught in some machine and they bled to death. No, it's literally homicide, which I mean, yeah, is it, but that goes to show, is you're in there getting your hair done or your nails done, and in comes someone to settle a grievance, and that rage switch has flipped, and now they're taking it out on not just the person that they feel is responsible for it, but everyone else in the vicinity. Yep. And I that's one, insane to me that I found that statistic, but two, that those things happen all the time, Greg.
Yeah. So think of this. I want to segue into that because that's a great point, but you made another great point, and I don't want the folks to pass up on it. When you think spatially about your zone around you, you think from the perspective of you, not your wife, not your kids, but you.
Right.
And you certainly don't think about your neighbor or the person getting their nails done when you're getting your mani-pedi. You're thinking about you. You may look at that person and go, wow, I like them. Wow, I don't like them. I'm attracted to them. Boy, they're being noisy. But everything is in context of how does it affect me at this moment or in the near future. We don't think generally, unless it's oxytocin, the love drug, about, oh, I wish I could marry that person. I wonder 7 years from now, we'd own a cottage on the lake. So what I'm telling you, folks, is you're the center of your universe. So what's going to happen is you're going to miss a lot of cues because the guy didn't come to kill you. He came to kill that person that's in the chair next to you, or the cashier, or to rob the joint. So you have to think like Harry Potter or Hermione Granger. You have to think outside of your own body and use the Wingardia Leviosa, or whatever they say, to take a look at that other person and what might be going on in the situation. Because if not, your brain's chemistry is going to go, well, this has nothing to do with me. So you're not going to be surprised. You're not going to be titillated or interested in the little cues. And everything starts with little cues. Person pulled up in front of the place, stopped, left the car running. Okay, now they left the door open. Now they're rushing in the place. And somebody that's watching you right now, Brian, is saying, yeah, okay, pizza delivery. And I'm going, no, early signs of armed robbery or homicide, right? So the idea is that you have to be able to measure those things. So you're in a emergency room because your daughter broke her leg. You're thinking, oh, my daughter's got to get her leg set. What about the
Yeah,
insurance? What
you're
am I going
yeah.
to do? You're ruminating about all these other things. When the
Meanwhile,
guy comes in and the security guard was the person that they were dating and they cheated with somebody else and they've already got the gun in their hand and they're set. They're going to do it. We miss all the cues. And then afterwards, people go, oh, well, man, Jim was quiet. I never heard it, or didn't know that they had a situation at home. I will tell you this, Brian. If we were going to warn somebody, I would come in to the nail salon, to the hair salon, to the place that I work at, City Market, at the deli, and I would tell everybody, hey, I had a big fight with my husband or wife last night. This is what they look like. We drive a yellow LTD. Do you get what I'm trying to say? If
yeah,
you see something, you better look out for it. I would say that. I would be that guy.
yeah, and there's those are always out there, and people know, and it never comes out because, again, we never do the where could this escalate to. You never know. Well, could it get to that point? Well,
Yep.
What do we know about them so far? And you always say the yellow pad, and I do the same thing, is write
Yep.
down everything you know that already about that person. If you're thinking that, hey, someone's in a volatile relationship, or it's abusive, or it's this, or it's that, or you're unsure about it, is you write down everything you can think of from the time you first met that person and every
Yep.
interaction that you felt something wrong or something was off. And then all you got to do is look at it and go, is this escalating? Right? Because what you'll see is sometimes it's just, oh, this person's just awkward, or they have a problem here. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yep.
consistent. And if it's consistent, then, that's usually okay. That
Good
might be
sign.
something separate. It's a good sign
Yep.
though, right? But when all those behaviors start escalating, well, first he said something here, but then he made a gesture here. And then remember, like, he grabbed her here and was like really
Yep.
aggressive. As those increase, it's showing you, if that line is going up, it's showing you where it's going, and it's nowhere good, right? It's
No,
never
and the
anywhere good.
perspective is important. The perspective. I can't fix you. Okay.
Right.
I can only try to fix me. So every time that we see that come to a juncture, we're going to look at it and we're going to say, well, how did I de-escalate that situation? We went to the water park, and when we came back, I made love to that person. Okay. Then the next time they did this and threw that out. So we went out to eat, and I ended up by doing something in the car before we got home. We do this series of checks and balances. Adults that are listening, you know what I'm talking about. Brian, what are we doing? We're delaying the inevitable
Yes.
because we're saying that, listen, we
Well,
risked
it's
here, but we
only
got a reward. Yeah, yeah.
yes,
And,
it's
and
only
you know what?
this,
They
and
calmed right down. We missed the cue because we're looking at it from the skewed perspective of they're going to change. And that's not going to happen. So the person that comes in, just because you're a good person and you've done everything right in your life and you pay out your bills on time, when that person comes in and they've got their head down and mission focused, predatory looks, and they're ready to kill, Brian, if you're in the way, you're going to.
you're going
And
to.
if the cop shows up, they're going to, because they're not going to all of
Yeah.
a sudden look and go, wow, this was a stupid plan. Does that happen? Yeah, it happens one in a quadrillion times where the person changes their mind in the center of it. And then you might get killed by proxy. The person might sit down on the floor, commit suicide, and the bullet, spins around inside that place and clips you anyway. You have to know before it happens.
Well, and
There was that article that I just told you about where the guy goes out to tell the kid on the motorcycle
yeah.
or the car to quit, doing hole shots in the neighborhood. Neither of them came back. The driver of the car or the motorcycle didn't come back because the guy killed him. The guy came back and said, honey, call a lawyer. I just killed our flipping neighbor. Brian, it's too late then
Well,
to
that's the
start
thing, is you
processing.
don't get that perspective until that rage subsides, and then the action from there might be, well, I'm done, and they'll kill themselves. They'll commit suicide or give
Yep.
up, like you said. I mean, that's the big thing with school shooters. What do? They either kill themselves or they give up. I mean, every single one of them. They don't fight it out with the police, right? They go, well, the killing's done, and they either kill themselves or they walk out and they're done. I'm going to go to McDonald's now. You know what I mean? Whatever it is. So that's a good explanation, I think, of how rage works. And once it runs its course, so to speak, once that part is done, then and I know with the school shooter it can be different because there's some planning involved with that, and there's other
We're being
things.
general.
But
Yes.
I want to keep it general too, because you actually brought up a great indicator that it's more specific, but I think it's a good one to talk about. And that's the leaving the car door open. Because when I
Oh
see a
yeah.
car door open, I go either A, someone just bailed and they're running from it,
Yep.
or which means what? If I like, to perfect example, you see all the police pursuits, guy crashes or whatever, ends, runs out of gas, and then now it turns into a foot pursuit.
Right.
They don't take the time to close the door on the car. They don't do that because they're never coming. There's never a plan. They're never coming back to that vehicle, right?
Right.
They have to run, and now this vehicle is useless. So it's no different, right? When you see sometimes with some of these different shootings too, where person gets out of the car and they just literally leave the car door open and
That's it.
walk away. There's no, it's, and you gave the pizza delivery one. Well, they usually close the car door, right? They're coming right back, or they're going to close that door. Even if you're running into 7-Eleven or whatever, I don't care. You're getting something out of the trunk. People will still close their car door because, they don't want anything to happen or whatever the issues. They don't want anyone to get in there. But the idea is, if I've left that open and walked away from that vehicle, I'm never coming back. And
That's
that's
it.
psychologically, I have made the choice to not come back to that vehicle.
Yep.
So, like you just said, the leaving the car door open and then walking into the nail salon, like that dude, they're not coming back. And I think that's an interesting indicator. I don't know if you have any other examples
No,
like
no.
that with the car door open, or the meaning or reason behind it from your experience.
Yeah. So remember that on the opposite side, on the person that says pizza delivery, you're always looking for the simplest conclusion
Yep.
because you don't want to waste mental calories
And
thinking
and it's
that you have to fight to live.
and it's
Okay.
usually
And it's
correct.
almost always benign.
Right.
It's almost always nothing. But when you start taking a look, like where would I see a person leave their car door open, leave the car running? A valet, a
Mm-hmm.
delivery person of some type, emergency room, the foyer, to go into triage, where you grab Tommy who's still choking and run him inside. So if it's in that environment, you're probably at homeostasis. But if it's all of a sudden in an environment where you wouldn't expect to see that, at least have your awareness heightened. Because when you heighten your awareness and you take a look at it, the client, look, I have to be able to apply situational awareness to another, not just me, not just, given a battle load. You remember how those things were written back in the day, and a weapon with full complement of ammo, conduct observation in public, urban terrain. Okay, that's not what we're talking about doing, folks. We're talking about is pay the F attention to
Mm-hmm.
the stuff that's happening around you. Like, for example, you hear a big black V8 kick in. Unless you're at a tractor pull, pay attention. That's a cop going, or that's a person fleeing. And you're saying, yeah, well, you're being pretty flippant about that. Yeah, because in my
Yeah.
experience, that's what it was. And I don't think about me, I think about my orbit. So if you're in my orbit, Brian, if you're near me, I have to consider you and what's happening to you, because somebody walking up to shoot you in the head might impact my day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does with the orbit analogy too, because I'm then in, if I mean that's a perfect example too. We're at work, or you're doing my nails, Greg, because you have a
Yep.
nail salon and you have an abusive ex-husband that
Yep.
is jealous because you moved on and have a boyfriend now, and you're now in my orbit. I'm just
You're,
sitting there
you're
getting
telling my story, just so you know.
yeah,
I mean, that's
and
actually what happened, folks.
and I'm getting the manicure, right, and you're
Yep.
giving me the manicure. Now I'm in your orbit. I have no idea what's going on. I never know what's going on in your life, Greg. So a guy walking in and saying, hey, Greg, to me it's just, oh, it must be another customer of yours,
Sure.
right?
Oh, they
Not
clearly know each other, right?
Yeah,
Right.
not your jealous ex-husband or something that's going to, he planned on killing you today. I mean, and we always talk about this. You can't be hyper vigilant, and that's why I always take that. Yeah, you're right. You never know. And I like the orbit analogy too, because you are in. I mean, you started with physics at the beginning, and how that works, and how that kind of, we can get sucked in, so to
Yes.
speak,
A vortex.
into that, right? And now we become a victim at the gas station, which I still like to remind people is like the most dangerous place on the face of the earth is a gas station. How many times they get robbed, or the gas station gets robbed, or people get robbed or abducted at one, and that's often the time that we're what, oh god, I gotta stop, I'm so annoyed
It's
that I have to fill up with gas right now because I've got 10 things to do today and I'm on my phone. I mean, it's absolutely incredible, but it's just another example of kind of bringing it into, we're everything around us is in constant flux. Yes.
exactly.
There's randomness, and there seems to be an infinite number of things that could happen or affect to change the situation. but it's a finite number of things that I need to focus on. Does that make sense?
You're exactly right. So let me give you an example of what Brian just said, folks, because he's spot on again. It's a couple of days from the 4th of July. Happy Independence Day, everybody. If except for if you're British, probably yeah, you're probably glad to be
I
rid of
forget
us.
what do they call it? I
But
can't remember. Yeah, it's like the day we got rid of whatever. They celebrate
exactly,
something else.
the
I don't know.
Pariah Day.
Yeah.
So here's Gunnison, and again, I like to use where I am as an example. Lots of people are going to be out in the woods. Okay, so number one, if you're using fireworks, you're going to burn the whole western states down. Stop.
Yeah.
Don't think about it. If you're going to cook marshmallows, you're going to burn everything down. And people go, oh, it doesn't always happen. It happens every year. Look at the stats. Now, next thing, Brian, is people lose fingers or die because fireworks aren't enough. They go, well, if that firework's good, let's put 9 of them in a Coke can. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? And wrap it with duct tape.
No way.
Stop.
No one
Oh
would ever
yeah,
do
yeah. So stop.
that.
You're an idiot. And tannerite is more than going to tell whether your baby's going to be blue or pink. Now, in addition to that, who else goes out into the woods? People that are fleeing because they have warrants. I have a mobile meth lab that's in a tent that's on public property, so I don't have to pay taxes and I can sell my meth, and cops never go there, and people are undermanned, and it's COVID, so nobody's looking. You have to start thinking like that. Now you're saying, well, that takes all the fun out of it. No, that takes some of the spontaneity out of it. Okay.
Yeah.
But I feel much more comfortable knowing that Grizzly Adams in the tent next to me, why does it smell like cat piss? And why is he up 24 hours a day? And he uses a flare, you know what I'm saying, as his camping light. So you have to be responsible for you, but you have to look outside to those things that environmentally might impact you. I saw a kid the other day almost get clipped at the Main Street. I have no idea what the Main Street in Gunnison's called, Maine. And he was looking at his phone so
Yeah.
you know, in his phone.
Intently. He just could not get out of
Intently
it.
is a
Yeah.
great word. And he had his bicycle, and he stepped off the curb and he walked in front, and 2 cars swerved and locked up. And he looked up, and he then had the that panic response where started breathing heavy and stuff. What do you think he did? Went right back to the app and walked off. And it's like, man, if you're not paying attention, you're going to reap the whirlwind. If you're not planning what you're going to do in that day, Brian, how many of us have a DFAC? PFAC rather, IFAC, different things. DFAC, I'm thinking of eating again.
Food. You getting hungry, buddy?
Dining facility. Yeah. Oh, Sam, you bastard. But a personal first aid kit or a trauma kit or one of those type of things. How many people still have them? And now all of a sudden, COVID's not as dangerous, Delta virus. COVID's not as dangerous, so I'm not doing as much hand washing. We're our own worst enemies, Brian.
Yeah.
In a situation, we're our own damn worst enemies because we don't think of the little things like that. I'd
I
rather
mean,
have a first aid kit than a gun.
yeah, yeah,
Come on.
I agree. But the other thing is too is what you talk about different those things in the environment. It just remember that not long ago picking up the insurgent from school in the afternoon, and me and Michaela are in the car, and I was like, I immediately started taking photos of these guys. It's like, why are you taking photos of that? What, they're just a couple of bums, because they appeared to be homeless, right? They had a bag on, they had clothing disheveled, clearly dirty. I was like, okay, see the guy. One's riding a bike over there. Yeah, that one's riding a bike right there. But notice he's riding a bike, and then he's also got his hand on an empty bike, and he's carrying that along with him.
There you
like,
go.
yeah. I was like, who needs 2 bikes at the same time?
I got to switch.
He just stole it. Like,
right.
And she's like, oh my God, I had no idea. I was like, yeah, why would you ever do that? She's like, well, it just didn't. Just a bunch of people with bikes. They go, yeah, that's the thing. It just blends right in. Your brain goes, I don't even notice that. I go, but why would you be riding a bike and bringing one with you, unless it's a couple of kids because they're bringing it to their friend or something like that? Like that doesn't make sense in the situation. And it's just like, holy crap! Like I never looked at it that way. And that's the idea. But it's all screaming at us right there. I mean, we weren't in any type of danger from those people, but the idea is like you're witnessing a crime taking place right now in front of you, and how many people just missed it. So
I have to teach loss prevention because nobody around here knows anything about it. They're absolutely clueless. So I'll stop them every once in a while, try to educate them. The first thing is their hackles will come up and they'll say, "Kiss my asshole, man." Go to another store, and it's like, no, that's not why I'm doing it. I'm not trying to call you out.
Or get out of the women's changing room, please.
Do me a favor and go to all of the parental homicide, kidnapping, molestation capers, all this other stuff that you look at, and look at how many times one company that has business in a city, the parking lot or inside of that place, they'll always have the security video, and that's where those people go before they did something. There's always that company, and I don't want to say
Right.
Walmart because I don't want to get sued, but take a look at the statistics on that. Next thing, if you're in the parking lot and all you're going in is for camping fuel, do you get what I'm trying to say? You could become a victim because that armed robbery vehicle is leaving, or that person with the kidnapping is in the same aisle, and you say nice day, and they think that you're going, oh shit, I saw you on the news. You don't know. So we're not
Yeah,
telling you
no,
mind
that's a
your
perfect
P's and
example.
Q's.
It's the car sitting there with the door
You
open
just
right at the entrance, not even parking spot in the
exactly.
loading area. Like that, I'm
But
not
you're
going in
gonna
there.
send 9 out of 10 times. That's
It's
because Granny needs to get her walker, and somebody's going to help her. But enhanced awareness. If you're looking for a shoplifter, you're going to be able to find them.
yeah,
Good clue on shoplifters. I come into your store with
with
a
the
full
back.
backpack.
Yeah, with the
Okay.
back on.
So you get what I'm trying to say? And people go, full backpack. Yeah. I inflate a bunch of shit in my backpack. So when I go out inflated, you don't notice it. And
Yeah.
I leave all that stuff behind. And I have a shoebox from the other place that I do. And I put and you're going, no way. The other thing is walking to find your car. I've lost my car before. You and I
Mm-hmm.
travel so much, I have no idea
Well, I don't.
what
I
the
was
car
like,
we
wait,
rented.
yeah, what was
Yeah.
the rental
Right.
again?
No, it
Yeah.
wasn't because of drinking.
No, it was because I can't
But the
remember
rental
what we
car, yeah.
rented. Yeah.
But you walk through the parking lot, and it's a busy parking lot on the 4th of July. And all of a sudden, you see a person that's weaving in and out of the cars, and they're looking around them and then looking in the cars. Well, about to get a stolen car or a theft from a car. It's not hard when you tune into the right frequency. And we used to do that. I remember being at 8 and gosh, it was between 8 and Gratiot and whatever that other street, Shaner. And there was a place that sold shawarma. And so I'd go into the shawarma place and I'd go up the ladder and go on the roof and take my binos. I had my police car. I was in full uniform. But when I was up on the roof, nobody was looking. Nobody
Right.
looks up on the
No
roof,
one
right?
looks up.
So I'd
Yeah.
watch the people thieving and stealing. I'd call one of my buddy in their car, and I had a felony rate that was through the roof. And one of my bosses goes, "Are you in your car when you're doing this?" I go, "No, I'm on the roof of the shawarma place." And he goes, "You got to be shitting me." So I actually did the study. You remember the study with the newspaper where I cut out a big rectangle, like, a la Barney Fife, and sat in the police car with the newspaper open, and people would do crimes right in front of you, thinking he's not paying attention. Why? Because you're led to believe, and once you're led to believe, the theory close enough kicks in,
Yep.
and you tune out. And even bad guys tune out, and you go, "That never happens." Look up my
All the time.
it's the
Well,
easiest thing in the world. All I had to do
yeah.
is fool them visually, and they kept going. But now let's flip that script and say you're not a copper. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And you're walking to, I don't know, Home Depot, and you're walking through the parking lot, and that kid thinks you're looking at him. And now he's going to say something like, "Who are you looking at?" And you don't think anything. It's, "I guess I'm looking at you." And now you just were making fun. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And it turns into a homicide. You have to see the storm clouds coming together. You have to conduct predictive analysis everywhere you go. And you have to give yourself the gift of time and distance, because if you get to the point of range, you're not going to be able to work that rheostat.
Right.
Not in that moment.
And that's why, without getting into the specific kind of skill set, just even having that mindset
Yeah,
of you never know, right? I
of
mean
course.
that because that allows you one to hey, you know what, maybe you'll help someone out that day who really needed it. Maybe you'll deal with the situation better. Traveling and all this stuff and the holidays is stressful, and everyone's got a lot going on, and the people working at that store, that's the busiest time of year. That's the busiest time for that gas
You're
station.
right.
It's the busiest time for crime. It's the bit. I mean, so if you have that ability to, like you said, kind of de-escalate yourself, right, and have that idea in your head of what you never know what this person is going through or what
I
they're
love that.
capable of or
Yes.
what they're going to do, because it also allows you to take a little bit more of a critical approach versus just saying, oh, he's probably just some jackass, or oh, it's probably
That's
just
denial,
he's
baby.
just an idiot. Yeah. And and that's the thing, is that by taking that you never know is just, it's like a very, I just like it as a mindset for that everyday
Yes.
person, just to look at the world and go, I never know what that person's going through. I never know what they're capable of. I never know what they've been through today. I never know what's going on in their mind right now. And I think that way is a good way to kind of approach it. I don't know, unless
So
you have any.
so add that yellow pad paper, flip it over. We talked about a lot today. I know you've got a lot to talk about. I hope you're not driving and writing on the yellow pad. Brian, let's use the fourth as a quick example. You never know, but this is what you do know. So you can separate the two, so there's not so much confusion and unknown. What are you likely to do on a fourth? You're going to stay in the sun too long without sunblock. You're going to get a sunburn. You're going to have too many drinks and not enough water, so you're going to be dehydrated, and that's going to lead to a hangover or a headache. You're going to play around with fireworks, even though that they're explosive devices and they're dangerous inherently. So by knowing those and yellow padding those few things, I can predict what the outcomes would be, and I can modify my future. On the other side, Brian, you got a blank slate, because that's, you never know. You never
Yeah.
know that person that you laughed at, or the person that you walked by, or the thing that you did. So try to live philosophically and physiologically and psychologically and socially. Try to live the right life and not get into those situations by avoidance.
And
Avoiding is a cogent strategy.
And like Billy Madison said, man, I'm glad I called that guy.
Exactly.
When he comes back to help him out later in the movie.
Exactly. Shoots the other guy.
Shoots the
My
other
wife,
guy.
the tramp.
Yeah,
that was the Jeopardy game.
Not a simple no would have been fine.
Great stuff, man.
At no point during your rambling, incoherent statement did you make any sense whatsoever.
I hear that a lot, actually.
Yeah, exactly. That was taken from one of our AARs of one of our courses.
Hilarious.
I would just want to remind everyone listening, and please share this with your friends if you enjoyed it, and give us a little rating down at the bottom of the details in the episode. It helps out quite a bit, and we have a whole bunch more of extra content on our Patreon site.
Yeah.
Follow-ups to the different shows, different webinars we've done before in the past. So there's a whole bunch more on there. It's only a couple bucks, and we try to keep it cheap and just let you guys have more. So we do appreciate that. We do have an upcoming course if you're in the Midwest. See the link in the episode details. It's obviously it's law enforcement, first responders only for right now, but you can check that out, and always reach out to us if you've got anything. Any final words from you, Greg?
Yeah, I'm learning about this cool new place called Killer Creamery. Creamery like cream,
Okay.
So Killer Creamery. Don't know enough about it yet, Brian, but I would encourage anybody to look it up and find out about it like I am. And then maybe on our next show, I'll tell you what I found out. Sounds like a place you and I would enjoy.
Is this like a scavenger hunt for our listeners?
Yes.
Like, I want to find out what that is. Now I have to go Google that.
No, it's just I have to go find out what the hell it is before we talk about it. Great fans there, and I want to drive some business their way.
Oh, okay. Got it. Sounds good. All right. Well, shout out to Killer Creamery then. I now have to go Google that too, Greg. Thank you for bringing that up in the middle of the show. All right. Thanks.
And I got to pee.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe us, follow us on social media, and reach out to your friends if you enjoyed the podcast. And don't forget that training changes behavior.